from a lot of the players, talking to a lot of the players, current players, whether it be All Black, Super Rugby players, are really broken about not being able to travel to South Africa because they know the experience that it is and how much they enjoy it, and it's so much different to New Zealand life, and conversely them coming to New Zealand and hosting them. So I know on a personal level a lot of the players are broken, but on the flip side of that, a lot of the players understand why they've done that.
You're listening to the MatchKitCast with me, Ben Karpinski, bringing you closer to the athletes on the MatchKit.co platform. This week on the MatchKitCast, I'm chatting to Karl Tenana. Now, when I was growing up, sevens wasn't the biggest deal, but it was always a thing that we'd love to watch here in South Africa, in particular the Hong Kong sevens. We used to wake up at the all hours, crack of dawn, whatever it was back in those days, and the New Zealanders were always too damn good. Them and the Fijians seemed to be the big rivalry, and one of the guys who was in that All Black team that was all conquering was Karl. Karl, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, Ben, it's always a pleasure. It's cool to be part of the MatchKit families, and always awesome to catch up, my man.
It is indeed, Karl, because as I say, you come from an era that was particularly special for me in a rugby sense, but now sevens as a game has really, really progressed. We do have other sort of current sevens players on our platform, and it's been so interesting for me to see how sevens as a game has added so much to the 15-man game. You look at stars coming through like Sibelo Sinatla, Cheslin Colby from a South African point of view. These are guys that really cut their teeth in the sevens game with a bit of space. And of course, New Zealand rugby's had so many different sort of direct elements of that free-flowing panache that really got into their game as well. Just from your perspective, where did it all begin for you in rugby? Because as much as rugby is a huge part of New Zealand life, everyone's got their own unique story how you got into the game itself.
I come from a rugby family. My grandfather played for one of the New Zealand teams here and played provincial rugby, and I was lucky enough to follow in his footsteps. And my father played provincial rugby as well for a couple of provinces over in New Zealand. So we were brought up on it, and like you, we watched when the teams went over to South Africa or toured overseas or the Hong Kongs. We got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it, and I have a real special affinity because one of my favourite players, John Kerwin, I remember seeing him. One of his first games was playing against South Africa, and for us growing up as New Zealanders, South Africa was always the premier foe, and if you wanted to test yourself against the best, it was always had to be against the South Africans, So I've always had an affinity for South Africa. And when I actually got to get the chance to come over, firstly with the sevens to South Africa, was mind blowing, And I thought Kiwis were mad on rugby. It pales in to what a religion it is over in South Africa. So the way they respect the game and the players, and I know the mutual respect with the guys I played against and met along the way has been huge, and it's all about the game of rugby, and that's something that really I think the two countries bond with, and probably why we respect each other so much. And you spoke about the likes of some of the guys, Cheslin Colby, I remember watching him coming up through the sevens in recent times, and to become one of the best players in the world, I think was a direct result of what he learned through the sevens program. And one of my favourite players to come through and is on the MatchKit, part of the MatchKit family, Sibelo Sinatla. I've always loved, as soon as he got onto the scene, just everything about him, the way he is, the way he holds himself, and the way he plays, man. He's one of my favourite players, and hopefully he's sometime soon he gets a shot at the box. And even guys like Quagga Smith, Quagga, I love Quagga. He's another guy that's graduated through the sevens program. So I think it's a great stepping stone, and New Zealand's probably used the sevens as a stepping stone for a very long time. And I think South Africa's obviously got it in place because their team's been probably, if not the best, near the best in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think it's a program under Neil Powell that's really been a success over there, and really starting to pay dividends with sending guys up to the top level.
Now, Karl, you were the first winning captain for New Zealand of the Rugby World Sevens, the Rugby World Cup Sevens back in 2001. You're also a Commonwealth Games 2002 gold medal winner. So did you have any idea that back then, when you guys were doing so well, sevens would have kind of flourished into the sort of platform that it is today?
I think in New Zealand, we always knew that like the Commonwealth Games was the pinnacle. We went and introduced into the Olympics yet. But when you have guys that have gone to the top level and been probably the biggest name in the game, and one being Jonah Lomu and the other one probably being Christian Cullen, those guys made a point of coming back to the sevens, anytime they could, whether it be for a Hong Kong, whether it be for a home tournament, which was Wellington at the time, or whether it be for a Commonwealth Games. They always made themselves available for the sevens. And I think them coming back and lending their names to the sevens program has sort of paved the way and changed the mindset of a lot of administrators and a lot of viewers, I suppose, and a lot of people even playing the game. Like you said when we in the intro, sometimes people just thought it was a bit of a larrikin. You can go along and chuck the ball around and have a bit of fun on the weekends and then enjoy the festivities afterwards. And it was just a bit of a touch game. But with those guys coming back and we sort of started applying plans around how we approach the game and our fitness and nutrition, and under Gordon Tidgens and Eric Rush, we really try to make it a professional environment. And that was probably the start of what the program is now and what it's led to. And, it's a viable another option to keep players in the game and playing, and now, as it's turned out, to be Olympians or use it as a pathway to go to test level, whether it be for the All Blacks or whatever.
No, it's an interesting point that you make, that under Gordon Tidgens, you guys were a lot more professional, and definitely it did show. You guys and the Fijians in particular, the South Africans kind of followed on further after that. In the last 10 years in particular, with the HSBC World Series, it's been such an amazing thing to kind of see from a fan perspective, the World Series going to all these different kind of places. 2020 has killed a bit of that momentum, unfortunately. Things have become dormant in many ways, and we lost all those amazing events. I know from a South African perspective, to lose the Cape Town Sevens, that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
But as far as progressing from the Sevens platform right now, of course, you're heavily involved in the broadcast side of things. You do travel so much. We now see that the women's are now sharing the stage with the men in these tournaments. What do you feel is that next step for Sevens to really kind of kick on? Because, it has progressed so far. It has done so well with fans. It is doing so much for the game in general. What do you feel ideally is the next step for the platform?
For the evolution, I think it has to be sustainable. I know it's very hard to have all these teams, 16 for the men if they just go to their own tournament, or 30 if the women play a combined one. It's very hard to have that sustainability and pay the players what they deserve. There's only limited opportunities that they get to do it. So, there's only a very select few countries that have full-time professional sevens players. New Zealand's one of them, luckily enough. And under the current climate, we've been seeing programs dissolve, like the England program, and I know Wales and other countries have had to pull back on their funding for their programs. So for me, the evolution of the game is, even though it's got to the Olympics, it needs to be financially viable, so it becomes its own sort of entity, along the lines of the NFL, National Football League, the Gridiron in America, or the NBA, and become one of those sports, one of those elite sports that young kids, wherever they are, wearing the player's jersey, whether it be a Sinatla or a Colby from South Africa, or a Caleb Clark or something like that from New Zealand, or wherever, Dan Norton. We want kids wearing our players' jerseys and ladies' jerseys and aspiring to be playing for the Blitzbokke or the All Black Sevens or the England women or Blackfern women's sevens or whoever, and being an Olympian and being proud of that and being able to make a living out of that, because it's a grind. It's tough work. It's very hard, and I think all the countries should have equal opportunity. So if we as a whole program and series can fund that, get revenue from that and punch it back into the countries, and have bona fide stars that such as Siobala Tanat, they can stay in the Blitzbokke program for however many years, 10 years, 15 years in the sevens program, become an absolute superstar like a LeBron James, and we champion our superstars. And every stop we go to, we've got Siobala Tanat, we've got a Perry Baker, we've got a Jerry Tuwai from Fiji, and these guys are coming to you, and people paying premium prices to see these elite athletes, the best in the world of what they do, and these Olympians, and champion them, and the lady on the ladies' side as well. Then I think that's the next step for us as a sport to try and get there.
It's a very interesting point, that, because a lot of those guys, they do progress because the 15-man game has obviously got more money. It's so easy to try to draw these comparisons that in cricket, T20 cricket has revolutionized the sport and almost become its own entity. The IPL brings with it so much money that suddenly this becomes a priority. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, but you always think like rugby is just so different in that respect, in that a cricketer can go have a bit of a hit and hope in T20 for a couple of months, not going to really mess up his conditioning,
Mm.
the chance of major injury. It's difficult when you got a year so long anyway with rugby players to kind of work on how they manage themselves physically. But I think it's yeah, I mean, it'd be an absolute dream situation that you could have these players really commit to sevens. Sevens becomes almost its own sport and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's still just a little bit too intertwined with a 15-man game, and you can see why the big stars do migrate to that. But Carl, I mean, it's difficult to have a conversation with a New Zealander right now and not talk about the other more obvious things about the 15-man game. New Zealand and SA seem to be sort of parting ways, I think is a diplomatic way of saying it. Now, there's a lot of negativity that comes in the press because, let's be honest, bad news sells. From your perspective, like, do you see some kind of positives that could happen between SA and New Zealand and the fierce rivalry kind of giving themselves a bit more space now? There's say absence makes a heart grow fonder. My personal opinion, before I get to yours, is that I think this will add a lot more to the test matches when we do play each other. Right now we play so much rugby every year with Super Rugby. And then when it comes to rugby championships, it's almost like we maybe a little bit too buddy-buddy. We know each other too well. From your side, what is a kind of positive that you see the New Zealand future going forward now with the sort of twist in form, associations?
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. I think demand will be created because we won't be playing each other so often. And like I just said before, New Zealanders always see the pinnacle of rugby rivalry is against the Springboks. So if they don't get to play each other so many times, and when they do, it's going to be more cherished. It's going to just heighten the rivalry and the uniqueness around playing each other. Whether it be from whatever grade, under 20 or whatever, up into the test level. So, I mean, and people in New Zealand understand why South Africa have chosen to do what they're going to do, and just from a lot of the players, talking to a lot of the players, current players, whether it be All Black, Super Rugby players, are really broken about not being able to travel to South Africa because they know the experience that it is and how much they enjoy it, and it's so much different to New Zealand life, and conversely them coming to New Zealand and hosting them. So I know on a personal level, a lot of the players are broken, but on the flip side of that, a lot of the players understand why they've done that. And at the end of the day, South Africa's got to look after South African rugby. No one else is going to look after them, So
Sure.
They have to do what's best for their interests. So if that's the path they see, then that's awesome. So be it, And when we do meet, I know it's always going to be special and that much bigger. And the ticket's going to be that much more expensive, my mate.
Perhaps. So, Carl, before I let you go, the British and Irish Lions is coming. Well, that's the next big thing for SA Rugby. There's no rugby championship this year for the Boks because they are very much underdone, and I think a lot of the players won't be ready. It's fair enough. Again, I don't want to get into the reasoning. The decision's been made. The Lions tour. Your sort of gut feeling about how that's going to go down for the Springboks next year?
Yeah, man, I've even had a mate contact me to come over, and he's leading a tour group to come over and be a part of that. So, yeah, man, I mean, like, I was lucky enough to be on the front lines when the Lions came to New Zealand, the British Irish Lions, and it's just something out of the stratosphere, I mean, everything's just so much bigger, so much more heightened. I mean, you only get to play each other once every 12 years, if you're lucky. So it's one of those special moments. You might get one chance in your whole career to do it. And, I know Warren Gatland's a really great coach, and, he drew this test series here. But I just think the way and the momentum that South Africa have got at the moment after last year's World Cup in Japan, everyone says a lot. Yeah, it'll be tough. I think it'll be tough for the Lions to come into that sort of arena just at the moment with the confidence and everything. It'll be an awesome series, no doubt. But just what they bring, even the supporters of the Lions, British and Irish Lions, is something really cool and unique. And they love their code, not as much as South Africans, obviously, but just everything's in red, So it'll be a really cool spectacle to be watching from afar, But personally, I think South Africa will, even before the test, I think they'll go all right. I think they'll be okay.
Well, I like that. I like a bit of positivity going into going to the new year, and hopefully 2021 will be a new year in all kind of senses, and that everything will be back on track. And it's a shame. I mean, I think personally, like, I love all sport, I really do, but rugby, this is something special about it, and I think you touched on it again. You know, when the guys go on tour and they do see the different sort of cultures clashing, it is something that is so special. So Karl is on MatchKit, on the MatchKit platform, matchkit.co/Karl Tenana. It's just his full name there. And if you haven't really been following Karl on social media or seen what he's been up to, firstly, check out his MatchKit profile. He's got one of the best feature videos going. He does get punched in the face by Sonny Bill Williams, but he also manages to do a pretty good interview with him. And, that's what I love about you, Karl, is that you are a definitive rugby personality. You're a person that loves the game. And rugby is about traveling. It's about making new connections. It's about sort of exchanging cultures. And you very much are the embodiment of that. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to you getting back on the road and sevens opening up and obviously more progression for that sport itself.
Nah, I appreciate it, bro. And by the way, I let Sonny punch me in the face. So I just to give him some confidence. Just to give him some confidence. The big man, he was down that day. So I thought, you know what? Just punch me in the nose and I'll wake up next week and we'll do this interview, eh?
So Karl, thanks so much for your time today. Really great chatting.
Oh, lekker, brother. Always a pleasure.
Go, man. Ciao. Are you an athlete looking to better commercialize your career? Visit matchkit.co/register and see what this unique web builder can do for your sporting profile.